What's going on, gamers? I am Merkaba18. Today I have a video for you in which I am going to talk to you about the brand new Patriot deck that I've built here. We've unlocked some of the final cards that I needed to make this efficient and powerful. This is one of the best mid to late game decks in the game right now, in my opinion. There are a lot of really good ways for this to play out. And there's a lot to talk about. So let's get right into it. This deck is centered around Patriot, Mystique, and Onslaught, but it's also centered around the use of non-ability cards. So most of the cards in this deck are going to be non-ability cards, which makes it super simple and straightforward to play. There are a few little tricks and a few little counters that you'll need to keep in mind. And this is about as strong as this deck will get. In some circumstances, you might want to play Khazar or some other variations of that. There may be some stronger non-ability cards that you have unlocked that I do not. But for the most part, this is pretty much going to be about as good as this deck will get. So we have, obviously, Squirrel Girl. Now, keep in mind, one thing to remember with these cards. Squirrel Girl has an ability. So the card that you play with Squirrel Girl itself is not going to get a buff, but the other two that it spawns will be buffed by these cards. So you want to keep in mind that you want to put Squirrel Girl down on one zone and then support her with a couple of like non-ability cards. So like, let's say we put Squirrel Girl down on one zone and then we put Abomination down on another one just to give them that extra power that they would be missing because of their ability. So then you got like Misty Knight, Shocker, Cyclops Thing, and Abomination. Those are all of your non-ability cards. Brood is the same as Squirrel Girl. The ability itself is, the card itself is going to have an ability, but it will spawn two other cards that do not, and therefore will be buffed. You want to, I almost always carry Cosmo in my mid to late game decks because he's going to be such an important counter for so many different, like Wong decks. You know, on reveal is a very strong part of the end game. So you want to make sure you have some level of counter for that. Not always going to work out perfectly, but at least have it there and ready to go. Now, the way that this is sort of going to work is you want to play your non-ability cards, and then you want to put Patriot down. If you draw Patriot, it will buff your cards with no abilities by 2 power. Mystique is here to copy that ability. So you put him down first, Mystique down second. An alternative way that this can kind of work out is you put Blue Marvel down and then Mystique. Or all 3 of them, and then Onslaught, which will then double the power. So at the end of the day, like if you have a zone with Patriot, Mystique, and Blue Marvel, you're going to end up with tons and tons of extra buffs for your non-ability cards, or all of your cards, frankly, because of Blue Marvel. And then Onslaught's going to double that. So in an ideal world, you'd have all 4 of those down on the board. It's almost never going to work out that way, so just keep that in mind. You're going to want to use some combination of those 4 cards to buff the rest of the cards. Onslaught is your final card usually if you've got it in your hand or if you draw it. You want to put that down in a zone where you have either Patriot and Mystique or Blue Marvel and Patriot or some combination thereof. Just make sure you put that down on the same spot as the other cards. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that there is a very hard counter for this deck, and that is, there are 2 of them. Enchantress will completely remove these abilities, the ongoing abilities, and then Rogue will steal them. So, like, for example, I think Rogue only steals 1 of them, but she will steal, like, let's say, Patriot here, and that will remove some of the effectiveness. So don't put that down. It may be useful to try to counter some of that by putting Patriot down on one lane, Mystique to copy the ability on a different lane, and then, like, let's say Blue Marvel on one and then Onslaught on the other. That way you're able to spread out the ongoing effect, and it's not completely minimized by Enchantrix or by Rogue. There isn't a whole lot of other like hard counters for this deck. Other than just purely outpowering. There are some decks that you're not going to have enough sheer power to deal with, and that is probably one of the weakest points of this. But at the end of the day, you're going to end up beating most decks just sheerly out of like buffed power. Another interesting card that you might sub in here that I personally do not have unlocked is Ultron. So Ultron is an 8 power card that will put bots down on other locations where there are no cards. Now, the thing to keep in mind with Ultron decks is you're going to reformulate this just a little bit because It's more about buffing those drones and leaving empty spots for them rather than filling the cards up into different zones. So there's a way in which you probably want to play lesser of these cards and put more into buffing the ones that Ultron spawns. So just keep that in mind. I want to show you guys some in-game footage of what this looks like so that you can see it in action. Please remember to subscribe to the channel. Like the video, let me know what you think. What kind of deck do you want me to build and put a video out on next? Please let me know in the comments below. I also play this game over on Twitch at Merkaba18. Please remember to go check out the live stream if you have not. Thank you so much for watching and enjoy the in-game footage.